The deliverance is also affected by signs and wonders or plagues against the people of Israel as Pharaoh continues to refuse to let the people go, as Pharaoh continues to assert his own authority over the Israelite slaves. And this series of plagues really is a contest. And this is particularly evident at the beginning, where you have Moses and Aaron creating signs and wonders or plagues, and the Egyptian magicians trying to copy them. These signs or these plagues fall into 3 series of 3 each: blood, frogs, and gnats; flies, pestilence, and boils; hail, locusts, and darkness. And the climax comes with the 10th, the death of the Egyptian firstborn. In each group of 3, there are warnings for the first 2, but not for the third. In the first 3, Aaron is the agent or the instrument by whom these signs are carried out. In the rest of the signs, it is either God or Moses, and in the 10th, it is clearly God who is doing it without human mediation. The Egyptian magicians at first succeed in duplicating the signs, but then they finally fail. So it is clearly God who is the one who has come out first in the contest. As preparation for that 10th sign or plague, commands are given to the Israelites to sacrifice a lamb, put the blood of the lamb on the doorposts, to roast and eat the meat together with unleavened bread and bitter herbs, and they are to be dressed and ready to go in haste, ready to escape. The firstborn of Egypt will be killed, while the Israelites will be spared. But the blood on the doors will be a sign for life for the Israelites. It's easy to sort of read over the accounts in Genesis without really getting a sense of the desperation of the real urgency to all of this. And it is a good exercise in imagination to put oneself in that situation. You have all the armies of Pharaoh, which are very powerful, and you are an escaping slave. And you do not want to get in the way of Pharaoh's army. In Exodus 12, there is also a command to continually celebrate every year the Passover, also called Pesach, occurring in the month of Nisan, the 15th through the 22nd. It is also in Jewish tradition called Chag Chamatzot, the festival of unleavened bread; Tzman Herutenu, the season of our freedom; Chag HaPesach, festival of the Passover. And we remember that on Maundy Thursday, we celebrate the celebration of the Passover by Jesus and his disciples. Passover marks the early harvest period, the harvesting of the barley, including a special offering of the omer on the second day. The unleavened bread is called the matzah, and the matzah is bread without yeast in it. Chametz is what you don't want to have around. It is the leaven, the yeast. And part of the celebration of Passover is to search and find the chametz, to nullify, destroy it, or sell it. In Jewish tradition, Passover begins at sunset the day before Passover. and this is the fast of the firstborn. There is a festive meal for the first 2 nights if one lives outside of Israel, and the first night if one lives in Israel. The order of celebration is called a Seder, and the telling of the story is called the Haggadah. And on this feast, symbolic foods are eaten in order to remember to put oneself in the place of those escaping Israelites. So the symbolic foods are matzah. This symbolizes haste, poor bread, a paschal offering. One is to drink wine. This symbolizes joy and gladness of deliverance. And there are 4 toasts, the 5th being the cup of Elijah. There are bitter herbs which are eaten to remember the bitterness of bondage in Egypt. There is haroset, which symbolizes the mortar used to press the bricks together and hold them together. There is salt water, which symbolizes tears. Karpas, which symbolizes spring and hope. And a shank bone and egg, which calls the destruction of the temple. Obviously not celebrated at that first Passover, but celebrated in Jewish tradition thereafter. God's saving acts are found in 5 different places in this part Genesis. The first is the most important. It is the salvation at the sea, the victory over the Egyptians in chapters 14 and 15. But as the Israelites go forward, they also are saved by Yahweh at the waters of Marah, which are too bitter to drink. And so through Moses, the waters are made sweet. Further on, God gives the manna and the quail in order to feed the people. And he gives water again in chapter 17. And he again delivers the people from enemies in the battle with Amalek. You can see that this makes a kind of chiasm. You have deliverance from armies in A and E. You have deliverance regarding water in B and D, and in the middle, the giving of food. The Exodus climax is celebrated with the Song of the Sea in chapter 15, and an abbreviated version sung also by Miriam in verse 21. The Song of the Sea depicts the conflict of the divine warrior over his adversaries. It also depicts the building of a temple on a sacred mountain. It is a celebration of God's everlasting kingship. And it speaks of liberation and the creation of a people. I would suggest you read through Exodus 15 to get a sense of all of these themes that are being celebrated.